Thank you. First things first, who am I? I'm a network security architect currently studying for OSCP. I'm a bit of an IT geek and car nut. You could say I'm the ultimate car hacker because I built that 13 years ago and it's been upgraded numerous times since. However, it is slightly different from the car I'm going to show you in that it only has 3 ECUs, 2 of which I built. The one shown in the top right hand corner there is a data logger I built that uses CANbus to the ECU so that I can know what the hell is going on the engine itself. It's going to be about car hacking. It's the first InfoSec related issue I've ever discovered and disclosed. This is not going to be anything in the leagues of Chris Valasek and Charlie Miller's Ford, Jeep or Toyota hack or Ken Monroe's Mitsubishi hack. In July 2015 I purchased the 6th of Citroen I've ever owned, the DS5 1955 edition. It's a limited edition, had all the toys, all the bells and whistles. And in the middle of the dashboard, it had a 7-inch touchscreen that you could tether to your phone and surf the internet on. Why you'd want to do that when you've got a phone with a perfectly good usable interface? Anyway, I don't know, but it's there. Didn't do anything to start with, but in 2016, I was working away from home quite a lot and I got a bit bored, so I thought I'd tether my phone to it, NMAP it and see what I could see. There was 4 ports open, 23, 111, 3333 and 20,000. The most interesting one there actually is 20,000, which is DMP3, which I believe will give you direct access to the CANbus. However, I currently can't find any information on how to craft a packet to do that, but I have been in communication with someone that actually does industrial control system stuff to actually find out that information, because they write packet generators for protocol. But as a network engineer, everyone knows telnet, don't they? So telnet under the box, and yep, straight in, shell, no authentication, no nothing. Great. There's a slightly better view of the wireless configuration, and there's the details of the actual operating system itself. It's a VxWorks box running on the Freescale MX6 Solo. VxWorks is actually the same stuff that runs on the Mars rover, so hopefully they did security slightly better than that. Initially did this in 2016, and at 44Con in 2016 I spoke to Ken Monroe about the findings, and he said, well, why haven't you disclosed it to anyone? So I sort of said, well, there's nothing actually I've found, it's only telnet, but I actually explained I didn't want to brick my daily driver. Note to yourself, don't try and hack your daily driver. Twice in the last month I've bricked my Jag with all the lights like a Christmas tree because I put the CANbus speed wrong and it just basically bricked itself. Not fun with a 40 grand car trying to explain that to Jaguar, but however. 2 years ago, last year I decided to sell the Citroen, so I thought I'd have a look through the command reference guide and see what commands I could find. So I had another go. There's a USB port in the center console, and some of the commands were copy and xcopy. So you could do an xcopy of the file system from the head unit to your USB drive, which is great. Onto the contents of that USB drive. In the system data folder, there are a load of SQLite databases. Some of them are just placeholders for the user data I'll show you in a minute, but other ones have things like VIN number and things in. So it's to actually set the head unit up to the car so it knows what car it's talking to. If you open them, some of them would open fine, other ones would look like they've got a password. It wasn't actually a password, it was just gzipped, but I didn't find that out till later, after I'd actually finished the disclosure process. But the more interesting stuff is the user data. So you've got some of the same user data, SQLite files, and you've got a corresponding INF file with it. So these INF files have a CRC check-in. That's a just uncompressed CRC check. And there is, hang on, back. It's gone too far. Try again. And there's the compressed CRC check. The interesting files in there are gender.sqlite, which just happens to be the entire contents of your phone book from your phone while you're tethered over Bluetooth. So if anyone gets onto your head unit, they know all your contacts and all their names, numbers, absolutely everything. And the other two interesting ones are navigation.sqlite and navdes.sqlite. I'll show you the contents of navigation.sqlite. There are two tables in there, last destinations, which has, as it says, all the last destinations, including any favorites that you have, home, work, etc., which is great. And it also has waypoints, which would be anywhere you've visited on the way to any of those locations. So some of the things might be in both tables, some might not. Just going on to the actual data inside the SQLite database. I have redacted this for my own personal security. Does anyone know where those three locations are? The top one is the building you're in. The second one down is the garage I bought my new car from, and the third one is SteelCon. If anyone has a ticket, let me know. Couldn't get one. So I had to play with the files itself, tried to modify a file, managed to swap two characters around, and it worked fine because I didn't know how to recreate the CRC check. If you did any more than swap two characters around, because the CRC check wasn't correct, it basically thought it had a blank database, so you lost all your history. So it's not great. But actual physical access is a bit boring. So had another look through the command reference, and you can actually do exfiltration over wireless. So you have to add your host, create a device. The 1 indicates FTP, a 0 would indicate NFS. I didn't actually try NFS, but as long as you get the 0x0 at the bottom, after you've run the command, it actually works and has copied your file across. The biggest problem with that is Xcopy doesn't work over FTP, so it takes a while. So on to the disclosure process itself. First of all, I wrote up my findings into a document saying what I'd found and what I think the issues are. I contacted Ken Monroe to see whether he had any contacts within Peugeot Citroën, which he did. So I sent over a brief outline of what my findings were to them, and they arranged a conference call in very, very strange broken French. So they were trying to speak English. I can't speak a word of French. So I explained my findings, and they were like, I don't get it. So, okay, put it this way. You're at McDonald's, your mobile phone's dead, and you want to get on the Wi-Fi to find out something that you might be doing later on in the evening. So you join the McDonald's Wi-Fi, and anyone that just happens to be on the same Wi-Fi, if there doesn't have client isolation, they can get into your box after finding your IP address and telnetting in and finding out where you live, etc., etc. After I'd explained that, they sort of got it. But then they had to go away and make sure it just wasn't a fluke. So we gave them a couple of weeks to go away and repeat, see if they could find the issue on other vehicles. In the meantime, I spoke to Ken Monroe again at SteelCon last year, and Peugeot Citroën were actually under the impression that Ken Monroe was a bug bounty hunter, and we were both trying to extort money out of Peugeot Citroën, which is quite strange because at the time they were buying GM Motors Europe, Vauxhall and Opel, and General Motors do actually have a bug bounty program. I never actually got anything from Peugeot Citroën, so thanks, great, wonderful. Eventually I had a second conference call with the French, and they confirmed that they have seen the issue in other vehicles, and their general consensus was it's up to the customer to secure their own Wi-Fi. So we haven't got any authentication, but yeah, it's up to you. If you connect to a crap Wi-Fi, good luck. They did, however, say the next generation of head units that were being developed at the time were not going to have Wi-Fi chipsets in, and any existing chipset, any existing head unit would be disabled at a later date. So it's like, okay, what if you paid extra to have this and they've now disabled it? I eventually published my findings at the weekend of DEF CON last year and managed to get a tweet from Charlie Miller himself about my findings, which was quite good. Another question, does anyone know who this chap is? It's the French president, and he just happens to be driven around in the same type of vehicle. So is this not a matter of French national security? Peugeot Citroën didn't think it was. I'd sort of disagree with them personally, because I'm sure nation states might be able to hack the Wi-Fi and the Bluetooth. Ever since then, I've tried to recreate my findings, but off the car. So I purchased a head unit and screen and stuff, and notice the little thing in the middle there? It says Wi-Fi. So tried to get it working out of the car, apply 12 volts to it, nothing happens, because you need all of that stuff. So the instrument cluster, the indicator stalks, the ignition key, the wiring loom, body control module, and all the bits that you see on the screen there. The plan is to actually create a car hacking, a car on a bench, so that people can hack it at a conference in the future, once I actually get it working on the bench. So rather than have all this out, I actually tried to get the head unit working offline. Oh, it's working. And so then on to some actual CAN bus bit. Got an Arduino, not an Arduino, a Raspberry Pi with a PyCan hat. Sniffed the CAN bus traffic to find out what actually messages were actually required to turn on the head unit. Did a replay on that, and then worked out the 5 messages that were actually required to get the head unit working. So that then came around to little Arduino module. Little thing on the left is an Arduino Nano, on the right is a CAN bus controller and transceiver. Programmed that to control the head unit and send all the correct messages at the right timescales. One little note, if you are going to be doing anything with that type of module, which has got the MCP 2515, its crystal frequency is 8 megahertz. All of the sample code has 16 megahertz. If you don't change it, it don't work, and you won't get anything. Eventually, it then comes to this. It's my head unit on a bench, which if anyone wants to play with, I will be around later, and it's working down here, if they want to have a go at it. Finally, on to thank you. I'd like to thank my mentor, Thomas, for his support and preparation for this talk. Also, I'd like to thank Ken. I know he's not here, but I'm sure someone he works with is. And finally, I'd like to thank my missus for putting up with all my rubbish while trying to create a car on a bench. The amount of times when you turn the ignition key, it beeps about a dozen times, and it's like, are you playing with that again? It's like, stop it. Finally, any questions?